For Season 3 of Pokemon Cooked Lead's YouTube channel, we are doing Wheel Draft. The rules are simple. Every round, a wheel is spun, and whatever gen you land on, everyone has to draft a mon of that same gen. Let's see what everyone did. Hello, I'm excited to be back, and I hope you're excited that I'm back too. Welcome to, I guess, the prologue episode for our next draft league. We only have 8 trainers this time because sometimes life happens and you can't afford to make a Pokemon team and play Pokemon every week. The sad reality of life. But so we're gonna have 7 weeks of matches. Top 4 make playoffs, and then 2 weeks of playoffs, and then we'll have another champion, or maybe the same champion. Jack, sorry, Dick. But yeah, so how this worked is that it is Natax. The only generational gimmick, I'll put a quotation marks, that's allowed is Terra Blast. And every round, we spin a wheel, and whatever gen we get, you had to draft a mon of that gen. And even when you're doing transactions, you have to follow that rule. So I'll put these are what the gens we rolled and how many times. And yeah, so let's get started on the actual teams. Ryan was selected to go first, and we have Weather. And if you see the team next to him, I guess I'll talk about both Ryan and Joe's team at the same time here. It's not only they went back to back, they both did rain teams, but they chose to do it slightly differently. Not only the rain setters and how they synergize with them. Ryan's rain team, the rain has a lot more defensive value to Ryan compared to Joe. We have mons that have good defensive typings, but their biggest kryptonite is their weakness to fire. Cortana's quad weak to fire, Genesec's quad weak to fire, Shadonic weak to fire, and thanks to the rain, they can cancel that out. We also have Gastrodon that gets spread. Water spread moves, and it powers itself up. We have Greatly to do for another water immunity ability. And then we have Swift Sim users like Barrascuda and even Love Disc. And we also have Kilowattrel here. Kilowattrel, not necessarily thought as a rain Pokemon, but the ability to set off perfectly accurate hurricanes and to not only hit really hard, but also right in the grass types, which are one of the more common weaknesses for rain teams in general, definitely has a lot of value here. Yeah, and then comparing that to Joe's, Joe's has got like the rain synergy is mons that just make me like more rip my hair out. Dracovish will one-shot everything. Archaludon. Famously, we had to nerf the points of Archaludon because this thing just kept winning whoever picked it. But yeah, there's not nearly the same defensive value that it has compared to Ryan. Just kind of more just took like generally like decent mons, got an Intimidate setter, Crocodile. Crocodile's a way to hit fire types just in case another Sun somehow gets wrought off. Without like having to rely on the weather, and it going away could be bad. Zapdos also has the hurricane stuff that Kilowattrel has. It's just kind of like, it's just better stats as that Kilowattrel. So yeah, not really using the same defensive value for the rain, and just like being a little bit less reliant on it. Dracovish still one-shots everything. If you're going first with Choice Scarf and Vicious Friend, will still one-shot most things. And the funny thing is that they actually play week 1, and who do I have favored in week 1? That's a tough question. There's the Dracovish not being that useful to be immune to because of the immune to water types that these mons have. Definitely wants my instincts say that Ryan may have the upper hand. Like something like Archaludon having the Electro Shot in rain that just one-shots almost the entire team. Can like one-shot a decent amount of the team. Definitely But there's also the Kilowatt Troll, which also counters the Archaudon. Yeah, I think Ryan has probably the slightly better team, at least on paper. I can't wait to see that match. And yeah, on to Fallon. Something I like about Fallon's team is that you can see the influence of the of our first draft league that was on YouTube, which is the Monotype, where she got Electric type, and her first 3 picks were the first 2 were Tapu Koko and Raging Bolt, just like the Electric Train Shredder, and Raging Bolt just to have those Electric type moves hit even harder. You know, just a really messed up duo. And there's also other ways. Sneasler is also another sneaky way to synergize with Electric Train. Can get the Electric Seed proc, and Trigger and Burden. That's also something that can really make Sneasler just super obnoxious. It being fast and everything, and Dire Claw is just super, super annoying. You can also see you can see later on the draft, it's like, oh, 4 picks, the first 4 picks, and 3 of them are weak to the ground type. Somehow she always has a team weak to ground type, and she tried to adjust a bit. Drafted Sneasler, but okay, drafted Charizard and drafted Swampert, and Savali can change its typing to whatever is deemed necessary. And she has so many starters. You got the Samurai, you got the Charizard, you got the Swampert. I think there might have been one more that might have got traded off. Or am I missing? Oh, Infernape, yeah. So 4 of the starters. So yeah, this is gonna be definitely a balance between when our electric type Pokemon safe, or just when your ground weak mons are safe to be sent out and start wreaking havoc, because these mons will wreak havoc. Sneasler hits so hard and scams games with Dire Claw. Raging Bolt is baloney even without the Electric Terrain. Tapu Koko sets the Electric Terrain and just fast. So yeah, her team is also fast for the most part. She does have some slower mons like Skarmory and like Ladle. These aren't stupid slow mons, so losing speed control can be an issue. Even Raging Bolt's like 80 speed, 80, 85, which is it really makes me upset about this mon's existence. But yeah, Zoo and Sauron also a bit better in the 6v6 format. Just can get hazards have more value when there's more mons that can switch in and out. So yeah, just gotta be worried about when and when not the ground types can come in. The Swampert pick, I think, is actually, I really like this Swampert pick. I just keep looking at this mon. It is weak to grass, which the electric types also can't really threaten. But she has like ways to get around that with Charizard and Fermnate and Usui and Samurott. Like, I could see this Swampert just being like a real thorn in the side. It's also just like a bulky mon, and ground types tend to be physical attackers, so I think it does pretty well. And also threatens the said ground type attackers with water type moves. Alright. Franklin. This is like, oh my gosh, this team actually, like, these are giga threats. I don't know how else to put it. Where it's just like, okay, Melmetal hits stupid hard. It's a bunch of, like the first two, like these first 3 picks, I'm just like, okay, Quagsire prevents setup. Like, even that's like kind of annoying. Or has a potential water immunity that can synergize with the Ursula and the Melmetal, which because they kind of struggle with that either offensively or defensively. And like, okay, these are mons that can like one-hit KO a lot of things, even like non-weaknesses like with Blood Moon and Double Iron Bash with their stupid high attack and special attack set. And then, we got like 2 flying dragons, and these mons are also super scary. They can get out of hand really quickly. They both can set up a Dragon Dance and both offer some defensive benefit with it. One giving Intimidate, one having Multi-Scale. And Dragonite can run Inner Focus as well to prevent flinching, and like also like start running the game with Dragon Dance. And And Salamence can even try to run the game with even quicker by boosting itself up with a Moxie. Deoxys attack, of course, is the scariest Pokemon known to mankind, where you kind of have to like run really strange things to just make sure this mon doesn't get away with too much. Maybe you're on a Choice Scarf mon on just have a way to pick it off. Maybe you're running multi-hits on mons just because you're that scared of it. This mon's a problem. I've seen it before on Run Wild. And then we have Cinderace. Cinderace is like also has just a lot of offensive coverage with the Libero ability, and also hits pretty hard. Also has some like funny stuff about it, where like if for some reason someone brings hazards, you can like switch that, or like webs, or like screens, which are present. We have Grimmsnarl, and we have Alolan Ninetales, typical screens type mons. So yeah, this is a team where it definitely can things can get bad really quickly for either side. You know, even like Melmetal and Ursaluna are like not the most bulky on the special side. You know, Salamence and Dragonite both have quad weaknesses. Deoxys attack gets OHKO'd by a gust of wind, and the move Gust. So yeah, this team will definitely be very entertaining to play, because watch because I know the battle's gonna be over in like 5 turns. Someone's dying, and I don't know who, but people are dying. All right, Jake, you know, was the intimidation tactics last season, and you know, not everyone has selected their team name yet. That's fine. So I don't have them up. But yeah, we can see the intimidation. We got the Incineroar, we got the Scrafty, we got the Masquerain. Scrafty is definitely one of those. Dude, Scrafty is like a Pokemon Cookie like legend. Like every time it gets picked, this thing puts up stupid numbers and like has a good chance of winning the league. So that mon's always a threat. We also have Intimidate Hate with King Gambit, but it could also be the what's it called? Oh my gosh. The more mons that are painted, the stronger it gets. I forgot what it's called. But yeah, and that works a bit better because it's 6v6 instead of 4v4, so it definitely gets stronger. Regieleki, you know, when you have a Regieleki, you always kind of like have the back of your mind, like, I can have speed control if I want it for this match. You know, fastest mon in the game, has Electro Web. So that's always a good thing to point out. Galarian Weezing's also a very scary mon. Not only because of like neutralizing gas, but you also like to play around, like there's a lot of like variety with it, where like you can do something like Mystery Terrain even if you are really scared of dragon types, or even Levitate. Levitate's just a very good ability on it, because then you don't really have many. It's your only way to steal at that point defensively. That's pretty scary. You know, Ditto, classic for Jake. Always likes picking up this spawn if possible. And definitely just makes people like scared, even on the team building side, where like I need a way to make sure that like I don't go too much into like a setup sweeper, because if some Ditto gets thrown out and then like I get reverse swept. Yeah. This team is pretty weak to ground. And we're gonna see that this isn't the only team that's weak to ground. My team is also very weak to ground, but I don't know what Jake's thinking, but like I'm not that worried about ground, because let's look at what we went through so far. The ground types are Gastrodon, so that's one. There was one here, Crocodile. That's a scary one. Bladeall, Swampert, but like. And Ursaluna's gonna one-shot anything to begin with. Like, oh, I get Earth Power. Like, yeah, I was dying to Blood Moon anyways. But like, the ground types they exist, but they don't always exist. And most of them are like, they aren't like the team's main game plan. Like the Gastrodon is probably gonna be pretty often for Ryan. But there's other ways that you can bully these mons. Crocodile is a bit faster and hits a bit harder in exchange for bulk, so that one's a bit scary. But like Swampert, there are ways to get around it, I'd say. You know, I don't have a ground, but like Jake doesn't have a ground type. Jack doesn't have a ground type. Tyler has two, which that's a little scary. So yeah, it's definitely a kind of a risky game that we're playing. But he has a bit more ways around it than I do. And for me, I started off. I'll talk about my drafting process. I didn't really have many mons in my head of what I really wanted, or like each gen. I saw Gen 7 was first, and I kind of like sighed because I'm like I wasn't really excited looking at the Gen 7 mons. Then I saw Lone Ninetales, and then I'm like, this is the one mon that I want. And I was kind of scared that it wasn't gonna make it to 6. So when it, I'm not gonna say fell, but when it lasted to 6, I was very happy about that. And I think this is gonna end up being a really good pick here. My team isn't a snow team. I wouldn't say that at all. But a Lone Ninetales, you don't need a snow team for a Lone Ninetales to be good. We've seen that in VGC, where, you know, in the regulation, whatever it was, where they banned Paradox Pokemon and the legendaries, Lone Ninetales was like fun a lot because like it's just a good ability with like Aurora Veil, and Ice Fairy is just a good offensive typing. So yeah, and it also helped shut down. Not that I knew this was what other people were gonna go, but like, no, it helps with the rain teams, which is nice as a way to just like kind of keep them on their toes. But like, if I get rid of their rain, their team is crippled a lot harder than if I don't have my snow. It's like, okay, I can't get up Aurora Veil, which is bad, but it's livable. And Mamoswine also technically gets energy with it, and I guess I could technically Terra Ice. But like Terra Ice for defensive value is maybe the worst thing you can ever say. Yeah. Umbreon's super bulky. I kind of didn't really have like, I'm gonna pick this for this. I kind of just like picked mine that I liked and I thought were good. You know, I thought Umbreon was just, I looked at Umbreon like, this seems really efficient for the point value, just super bulky. Can help with special attackers and just mashing Snarl. Meet to Psychic is always nice because, you know, as we see on the team to the right of me, we have Psychic Terrain synergy. Volcarona, always picking this mon, my queen. The Iron Hands, it's Iron Hands. I don't know what else to say about this mon. It's just the pile of stats mons. Love this. I think this mon's super cool. Now, I got Overquill just for extra fairy hatred was really the reason why I picked it. I have 4 ground weak mons and only 1 mon that's immune to it. The rest are either neutral or worse. So there's definitely gonna have to be ways to I have to be worried about that. I can use that against people though. I can have the you know, weakness policy Metagross is a very common thing. You know, I got Electabuzz for follow me support and just like more disruption. I just made sure I'd like picked mons that I thought were good. I thought I covered some things, and I wasn't leaning too much into one direction. You know, I got Dusclops last minute for like Trick Room. I transactioned for this because I realized that I didn't have Trick Room, and I like having Trick Room just in case things go south for some matchups. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me. And then Jack's team, this is I don't even know what I think about this team. Tapu Lele is a super scary mon. This is a Hydrogen Bomb mon where, you know, Psychic Fairy pretty good. Covers some defensive things pretty well. Doesn't hit steel types, but Tapu Lele does get Focus Blast, so that's another thing to worry about. But like, you know, the Fairy hits the dark types, and the Psychic hits poison types. Smeargle is, oh god, no one's ever drafted this, ever. And the fact that Jack has it, it's just like, oh god, what is he doing with this? Because how am I supposed to know until every week some new baloney gets brought because he can learn every move? This mon is going to be an issue. You know, Yaskarada, definitely a very annoying mon to play against because a Protean and she just changed its type when they attack, so you can flip matchups on its head. So you got to be worried about like different coverages with that. Dark grass. Driftloom has some Psychic Seed synergy, also has the burning kind of like the, what's it called? Sneasel I talked about for Bound's team. Has things like, and can use that speed to do like Tailwind, can do Will-O-Wisp, can do String Staff. Mon can be very annoying, especially with the increased bulk he gets from a Psychic Seed, because like its HP stat is really high, but like its defenses aren't that high. So like any multiplicative, like any boost is like makes each HP stat so much more valuable. This Thunderous Hearing hits super hard. Corviknight is just annoying Pokemon. Dragapult's always a threat, just how fast and how hard it can hit. Definitely gotta have ways for like potential speed control. And because this team is like kind of fast. I mean, okay, kind of fast. It's fast for the most part. Yeah, Lele is not fat, it's like okay speed, but Choice Scarf is pretty calm with it. You know, Thundurus is pretty fast, and then like, you know, they got super like Tailwind Mons, and we have more Intimidation hate with the Melodic. This team, I want to see how this team like shows up like in games, because like I'm kind of not really sure about how I picture this team working. Like, okay, I see Tapu Lele, I'm like, oh, that hits hard, and I see Driftloom, I'm like, okay, that's synergy with that. Like, what is the rest of the team going to do? I'm very interested in seeing that. I'm sure Jack will cause me problems, and I want and make all these mons want to be 10,000 points. All right, finally, Tyler. Dude, this Bruxish pick first is so funny to me. Bruxish definitely has a unique role. It's kind of like in DD, where it's like, or for Graph, where it's like, oh, immune to priority moves. Dazzling, but doesn't always have to be. Dazzling Strong Jaw just makes you hit a lot harder. And we have a very good this is like a very strongly defensive team for the most part. We have Intimidate, we have Ting-Lu, we have Poison Heal Gliscor, we have P2 with his own recovery and just a launchable. Arcanine for Intimidate. You know, Latios just has weaknesses, but has okay bulk and has a lot of switching opportunities against ground, against fighting, against like water, grass, fire, electric. You know, it has a lot of resistances. And yeah, this team definitely has ground type moves, which will be scary for me. So this team is gonna be. It does have offense too, like where Keldeo hits hard, Rillaboom hits really hard, and Spectre hits hard, Latios hits hard. Like, a lot of these mons still have offensive value to them. You know, Ting-Lu doesn't have to be, what's it called? Has a way to kind of like cheat in doing damage, where it still can do pretty decent damage anyways, but like has Ruination. P2 for Trick Room. Yeah, this is going to be a team where, including that with all this passive healing with Grassy Seed, this team can be really annoying to play against. Has some ground weak mons, but I mean, not ground weak mons. Ice weak mons, but has ways to go against that with the with something like Arcanine and Keldeo. So, yeah, this team I think is going to have on average the longest games in my opinion. But yeah, that's everyone's team. Matches start next week, and I hope to see you guys there. Man, it's going to be weird only having to record 4 videos for a week and only for 1 week before playoffs, but hey, maybe that means I have more time to focus on editing these and making them sound better and look better, because I've been practicing. The reason why I made that short was kind of like practice new stuff. I switched video editing software. I was on Clipchamp, which is like very beginner friendly, but that's really think good about it. To DaVinci, and then Maybe then Photopea for thumbnails, maybe at times where I feel like it's necessary for like specific things. But yeah, I can't wait to see you guys, and I can't wait to play some Pokemon. Bye bye.